Have you ever thought that Christians are supposed to just shut off their brains and have blind faith? Honestly, kinda, yeah. A lot of people think that movies, TV shows, internet debates, they often make Christianity sound like, don't ask questions, just believe. But is that actually what the Bible teaches? Hi, I'm Sandy, and on this channel we explore Christian stuff in plain English by going straight to the Bible for answers. We're continuing our misconception series, and today we're talking about whether Christians are supposed to have blind faith. One of my favorite shows is Jane the Virgin. It's funny, dramatic, whimsical, but there was one scene that always stuck with me.
What if Jesus' disciples just thought he died, but he really didn't? So he actually wasn't resurrected. He just kind of woke up.
Jane asks a really smart question about Jesus' resurrection, but instead of digging into it, her grandma responds with, no ifs, no buts. That's what faith is, the banishment of doubt. And I remember thinking, no, it's not. Wait, so Christians are allowed to ask questions? Absolutely. God gave us our brains. He's not asking us to pretend we don't have them. In fact, throughout the Bible, we actually see God inviting people to seek, think, reason, and ask questions. One verse people sometimes use to support the idea of blind faith is John 20, verse 29, where Jesus says, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe." At first glance, some people interpret that as just believe without evidence. But if we look at the story in context, that's not what's happening at all. After Jesus rose from the dead, his disciples saw him alive, except for Thomas. Thomas basically said, I'm not going to believe unless I see him myself. And what's interesting is that Jesus did not shame Thomas for asking questions. He didn't say, how dare you doubt? He actually invited Thomas to examine the evidence. Jesus appeared to him personally and showed him his wounds. Oh, so Thomas is basically the original I need receipts guy, pretty much. And after Thomas saw Jesus, he believed. So when Jesus later says, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe," he's talking about people like us living thousands of years later who don't physically see Jesus standing in front of them. But that doesn't mean God is asking us to have blind faith. God didn't create us with brains and then ask us not to use them. That wouldn't even make logical sense. In fact, the Bible tells Christians to be prepared to give reasons for what they believe. 1 Peter 3, verse 15 says, "Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have." He wouldn't tell us to have reasons ready if he expected us to just blindly follow without thinking. Okay, but some Christians definitely act like asking questions is illegal. I know, and honestly, sometimes Christians can unintentionally make people feel bad for asking hard questions. But questions are not the enemy of faith. Questions often lead us deeper and closer to God in the end. Matthew 7, verses 7 to 8 says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened to you." It's saying that if we ask those hard questions and actually seek out the answer, he will help us find those answers. So if faith isn't blind belief with zero evidence, then what is faith? I think a good example is a jury in a courtroom. Jurors look at evidence, testimony, facts, and arguments. Do they always get every single question answered perfectly? No, but eventually they still have to make a decision based on the evidence they do have. And honestly, I think faith works in a similar way. Faith is not believing with no evidence. It's making a decision based on the evidence, experiences, and reasons you do have, even if you don't have every single question answered perfectly. In fact, that is the reason why I started this channel. I think a lot of people have questions, but they don't dig in and get the answers. I would like to help people start to uncover those answers. Okay, so God is not asking me to throw my brain into a volcano? No, definitely not. God invites us to seek Him, think deeply, ask questions, and ultimately choose what we believe. If you're interested in uncovering some evidence on Christianity, there are several authors who have deeply explored the evidence for Christianity. For example, Lee Strobel is a former atheist who set out to prove the resurrection was a hoax after his wife became a Christian. He was an investigative reporter at the Chicago Tribune who was Harvard trained. He was like, I am proving this Christian stuff is not true. But the more he dug in, he realized the evidence went in a different direction. He is now known for his Christian faith. His most famous book is A Case for Christ. J. Warner Wallace became a Christian at the age of 35 after investigating the claims of the New Testament Gospels using his skill set as a detective. His book is Cold Case Christianity. A homicide detective investigates the claims of the Gospels. These guys approached Christianity very skeptically and ended up becoming Christians after investigating the evidence. In addition, did you know that Luke, from the Bible, explicitly carried out investigative work to write his gospel? This is recorded right at the beginning of his book in the New Testament. In Luke 1, verses 1 through 4, he states that because many others had drawn up accounts of the things that happened, he wanted to do his own research. He writes that he carefully investigated everything from the beginning, traced the course of all the events, consulted eyewitnesses and original ministers of the word, and he wrote an orderly account so that readers would know the exact truth about Jesus. Historically, this shows Luke acted as a careful historian and researcher. As a physician, he used thorough analytical and observational skills to track down and verify the facts for both of his New Testament books, the Gospel of Luke and Acts. Christianity doesn't ask us to shut off our brains. It invites us to seek, think, ask questions, and ultimately choose what we believe. This is very different from blind faith. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment below. I would love to hear what you have to say. So Jessica, what misconception should we tackle next time? Honestly, I want to talk about the science thing. The science thing? Yeah, because people are always acting like Christianity and science are like mortal enemies. Okay, next time, is Christianity anti-science? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, Jessica and I think that you would enjoy this video right here.